Okay, so today I'm going to be making some salvage poetry and I guess showing how that process works from sort of start to finish, what steps are involved, and how someone does it. The first step is choosing a text. Different ways you can do that. You can select randomly, you can go through things, you can do probably any text works. So yeah, anyways, choose a text. Let me get to my text. This is a PDF of a web page. I just Control P, convert to PDF of this discussion post from the visual novel database, as you saw. 17-year Monopoly. Okay, so yeah. You have the text, and the first step is selecting what parts of the text you want to do. There's no all these steps are obviously optional. You can do them or not do them, or do an iteration, do a variation. What I've been doing recently is having the poem be sort of a variable length. In the past I've done okay, I want to write an 8-stanza poem, and then come up with a mechanism for choosing 8 stanzas worth of material from the text. Now I'm kind of more wishy-washy. As you can see, this PDF is 5 pages, but the first page is blank. You can use this. I've used sort of blank pages in the past where sometimes I'll use a blank page to just be null and void, there's not, just skip that stanza. I've done that when I was working with a really long text. It came out to be a bunch of stanzas, but it's okay, I can skip a couple. Sometimes it's there's just a small amount of information on the page and be interesting, or sometimes there's an image or something like that. But I feel like this is probably not interesting. So I'm just going to say, essentially this is going to be a 4-page document. So then what you do with that is go to random.org, go to your random number generator, min, max, put however long your thing is. If it's a chapter in a book, you put however long the chapter is. So here it's 1 to 4. This is the number of pages that I'm pulling from. 4. I'm pulling from 4 pages. And now I generate 4 more because it gave me 4. If it gave me 3, I generate 3 more numbers to see what pages I'm going to pull from. So 1, let's let me write this down. 2, 3, 4. That's easy enough. Now, the first page that I'm pulling from, because it's also the sequence of pages you pull from, whatever it generates. So if it had generated 4, 3, 2, 1, I'd pull from the 4th page first. But in this case, it's literally just sequential order. So now I'm going to count how many paragraphs there are in this page. I'll say this is 1 paragraph, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and it can include the PM and the 205 down there. Okay, so there's 8 paragraphs or paragraph type things on the page. Now I'm going to generate another number between 1 and 8. Select how many paragraphs I'm pulling from. 6. Okay. And then now I generate 6 more numbers in the same range to select which paragraphs, and then that's in the order of the paragraphs. So 8, 7, 4. 5, 2, 5. The second page. So I'll say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And that can include that at the bottom. So there's 17 here. So 1 to 17. Okay, 6 again. Let me select which ones. 4, 13, 13. Duplicates are okay. 7, 8, 11. Then we go to the next page. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 19. And it doesn't really matter which paragraph is which. From 18 things here. Let's see which ones. 10, 12, 14, 14, 2, 8, 14, 8, 1, 15, 13, 5, 18, 3, 9, 9, 19, 5. Okay, cool. So that's the paragraph selected for that page. And then finally, this one, I'll say there's 1, 2 paragraphs. So 2, and we're choosing 2 from those. 1, 2. Okay, so all of them. And now the next step would just be like writing the poem. But to make that somewhat easier for myself, PDF sort of converter, and then uploading your PDF there, and then downloading it. Okay, here we go. Hello team. So it's, yeah, I just uploaded the PDF, unzipped it. However you unzip a file, doesn't matter. So again, not using that, so I'll delete the first page. And I'll just do this in ta-da, Paint. So here we go, is the first guy. So this is going to be for like demarcating the paragraphs that I'm pulling from. So 874525 is what I have. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is number 1, and I'll do invert selection, invert color, F12, save it as 1, sure. And then I'll do Control Z. The next paragraph is 7. I'll just do the same thing, and I'll continue through for the rest of them. And again, the numbers don't matter that much. So if you count the paragraphs differently here than when you're selecting them before, I think that's fine. Does not matter. So there we go. Those are the 6 paragraphs we're pulling from. And there's duplicates, and that's okay. And I'll just do that again for the rest of the pages. Okay, that is now all of the guys done. Switch this back over to this. I somehow lost one of the ones for the 3rd page, but I don't really care, so it's just going to be 17 now. And then the next step is going through each of these things. Yes. Okay. Yeah, so then you just go through stanza out of that, 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 stanza out of that. Boom, your first thing is done. Usually I don't do any kind of demarcation in between the pages. I'll put it in the title so people can look if they want. Yeah, the titles I'm doing right now are not great, but it is what it is. Conveys some kind of information. So I'm going to write a poem with this stuff and then get back to you later. Okay, this is a couple days later. I finished the poem. I think it's turned out well. Better than I expected, but only because like when I was going through halfway, like, oh, this is bad, just gotta push through it, and I think it turned out okay. But before I get to that, although I already showed it, I think, I'll just go through sort of what that process looked like, because I skipped through all that, because I like writing this type of stuff, pencil and paper, and I don't really have a easy way of sort of recording or documenting that. So I'll do like a facsimile of what that looks like or can look like. So this is first page, first paragraph. So I wrote the first stanza with words from this paragraph, I guess. It's just one line, but pretending it's a paragraph. As I went on, I ended up sort of falling into sort of a stanza or poem form structure. I managed sort of 3 lines out of this, and I made 5 lines out of the next thing, and then I sort of got 2 out of the next, and so I was like, well, I'll just alternate between those, where like 3 lines, 5 lines, 2 lines, 3 lines, 5 lines, 2 lines, until I get to the end. So there's, I guess, a kind of circularity in that. So yeah, what I have is be fair to some, and fair be full there is. Be fair to some, and fair be full there is. Just pulled from that. I have like a thing where like I don't really like putting words in the same order as they are in the sentence or paragraph or whatever in the original text in my poem the same order, but I mean sometimes you can't really help it. I sort of like gave up here with this poem more than I usually do, just because like, well, we'll get to that. Yeah, I'll just go through sort of what that looks like for the rest of this. Okay, that says somehow A, charge to source your parts and interests. Bad enough to get censored and ground into a point. So the poem this far is be fair to some and fair be full. There is somehow a charge to source your parts and interests bad enough to get censored and ground into a point. This actually illustrates one of the quirks of this type of poetry, where like proper English would be like into is like one word, but that word wasn't in this paragraph that I could see. I usually don't put words together. Sometimes maybe I have done that. Maybe I will do that again in the future. But I like to use these sort of like confines to try to break apart language or use this as a environment to play with language and do stuff like that. Or just like break rules. Because if I'm writing a poem, I can use any words. Well, I'm using probably more often words in the way that I learned in school, right? But here, it's like, well, I only have so many words. And if I want to say something grammatically, I might not have that option. So there's more of an excuse to do that. Yeah, I'm probably not going to go through the rest of these. I'll just like pull them up quickly to see if there's anything interesting or worth talking about, or at least for the first page that I'm pulling from. I'm definitely not going to go through the whole poem. Yeah, the one thing I'll say with this one is this is just like one of the many times where there's like an example in the line or in the stanza I write with this. Yeah, no broader way a just world is willing and erotic. So obviously, like there, just is being used as a adjective to describe world, versus here, it is not being used that way, or that's not the original intent in this paragraph. So I do generally kind of go out of my way to do that, whether that be like use verbs or adverbs as adjectives or use nouns as verbs. So like the things I look for in that effect are like nouns that are plural and are maybe ambiguous. It's like I didn't do it, but like games here, other games, that's being used as a noun. You can also say like someone games, and that could be a verb. Or here, a database that covers is being used as a verb, but you can also use it as a noun. And there are also some like non-plural nouns that can be verbs, etc., depending on what thing it is. So here is like a demand. So demand is a noun here. But if you had I demand, so if you have like an I or some kind of noun like that, I generally try to look for and maintain verb tense agreement. There were maybe a couple of times in this poem where I couldn't do that. But yeah, so if I'm using covers as a verb, as a noun, and it's the subject of the sentence, I generally prefer to have the verb that covers is describing have sort of verb tense agreement. So it wouldn't be like covers games. It'd be like covers game the system. Because if it, versus like cover games the system. Where if it's like a plural noun, then the verb doesn't have the S. But if it's a singular noun, then the verb has the S. So it's just kind of like a flip-floppy situation like that. There are like other different things like that. I'm not going to go over every specific. I wrote like a lengthier report on this stuff. My website is sort of like a retrospect of the longer form Salvage poetry project I did. But I feel like everyone's always saying, go check out my other thing. And like, I don't really have time or interest most of the time to check out your other stuff. I know here, since I wrote it, it's kind of, interesting in parts, but I feel like it's not necessarily so interesting that people have like a need to exit this space to go search a different space. But I tried to get like useful sort of spark notes from that and put them here. Yeah, I'm not going to go through the rest of the paragraphs on the first page and show like an example of some of like the challenging stuff from the later on. So here, for instance, this was one of the paragraphs or sections that I selected randomly through the procedure that I illustrated before, and there's not a lot of words here. I think I actually had selected this multiple times, or ended up coming up multiple times. So yeah, there's limited runway that you can do. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 words. Well, a violet flare can be a word. I didn't use that. I lucked out that they were so named paradoxical. I think I used that once. I don't think I used any of the other usernames. But I used like the numbers a bunch and the times. Because this is like, I have to use something. Because these sort of like short comments were selected a bunch of times. And you can only say like, yo, happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday, birthday happy, bye at happy at birthday. Whoa. So many times. I kept like hallucinating that there were other words here. I was like, oh, and. Oh no, there's no and. Oh, but. Oh no, it just says bye. So yeah, I integrated like the post number and like the timestamp as well. Yeah, I think now I'll just like read the rest of the poem. So I called it running to the store crying.pdf because that was the name of the file. I don't even know why I named the file that. I'm sure there was something I was thinking of, but I just thought it worked when I was like coming up with the title, which I did before doing the rest of this. And the other alternative title is 17-Year Monopoly, which is the name of the discussion post post that I was pulling from. And the ellipses stuff is like, I had come up with a whole methodology before for how these things are named, but it's really obtuse. I don't really remember what it was, so I didn't put it here. Alright, here it goes. Be fair to some, and fair be full. There is somehow a charge to source your parts and interests bad enough to get censored and ground into a point. A still point, meant to have been in space. No broader way, a just world is willing and erotic. Another type flies create me, to already been me. The sure time of infinity, games of little reminder, limitation to visual cover, a single way to sort. This is for you, at you, by you, best by 454, to thrive by luck, luck of number 17, and to best of best, luck at 2, 454, best of luck. So splurge, even though retaining is just somewhat recent. At 227, number 4 birthday. At happy 227, number 4 by number 4, birthday by number 4 at happy. But I have to succeed. Instead of that sad building I loved, because we're dead, and shouldn't be considered more than the archival moment. Still, lots left at 1053, 17 lots, only growing. By 1053, there's number 20. Hesitant friends sent for a site to be maintained. I'm happy, but hesitant. Barely a use for my goal, my intended goal. Of years past and years over, and at least the worst has passed, and the well has stopped. At 7:07, migraines discouraged me. By 8:38, number 17, birthday at. I'll be happy if I'm a tracker. I'm barely happy, but tracker is my intended goal. By 8:38, number 17, happy at. Number 17. By 8:38, happy at that, or is that fact a coincidence? Out here by 11:34, you shouted, birthday! At 7:16, happy! At number 14, pog! By 12:45, happy number 24! By 7:13, happy. Paradoxical, birthday, number 12. You shouted, time out! I've been out here for a long time. You should have been here by 9:01. You long for this, but at 9:01, I've shouted at you. I remember number 25, the still birthday, discovering. At 7:16, happy number 14, happy birthday. Birthday number 14. Bye at bye. All my love for you, my monopoly. Next is about losing us. Losing pencil privacy to eraser security. So that's a one. Maybe the narrative arc could have been done better. There's sort of like an improv element to this, where like I sense where I'm going or what I want to do, but I feel like if I try to force it too much, then it can end up being in trouble. Because then it's like, oh, I ran out of things to do that with, because the words that I want aren't in future stanzas. So I try to like work with the text to pull things out that are already there. I feel like this is potentially a way of doing a media analysis. Yeah, all these words are there. So this is something that can be said with what is on the page. Something that's like sort of lying inert. It's like panning for gold or something. Well, I'm not saying that this is gold, but I feel like there's a cultivative property to it, perhaps. Yeah, that's that. Hopefully it was maybe a little interesting. I'll do what I can with sound and production and whatnot. I think there might be limits. I don't want to spend like so much time on this. I definitely encourage other people to try this out. It doesn't have to be as long as this. In fact, I didn't intend for this to be long. It could just be a short little thing. I like doing like 16-line guys, or so like 4 stanzas. I found fulfillment in that before. I think there are lots of different ways to approach this and find meaning from it, but it doesn't have to be anything big or lugubrious. I don't know if that's the right word. Okay, blah, blah, blah. If you do end up doing anything with this, your own take on it, whatever, yeah, feel free to like let me know in comments or any other kind of communication way. Definitely interested to see other people's takes on this, because I didn't come up with this sort of idea for approaching poetry. So yeah, there's a history before me and there's going to be a history after me. I'm just here for the time, doing my thing in my space. And I encourage other people to, take up some of the space as well, if they feel like it. And I guess you can also do like the other YouTube stuff. So yeah, comment a poem or whatever if you have something like that. Or if you feel compelled, or like subscribe or whatever. Like the video, please, I'm begging you. All right, have a nice day.